Hey guys, welcome back to week 4 of distance learning. This week we're going to be covering sequences and patterns in math. So we're going to start with some vocabulary. We have 5 vocab words to go over. The first 2 are sequence and pattern. So a sequence is an arranged order. So when we talk about sequences today, we're going to be talking mainly about how they apply in math. So an arranged order could be something like the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They could be any set of numbers that have a specific order to them. A pattern is where it's a repeated operation within a sequence. Sometimes this is called a rule. So we're going to see an example in the next slide here. So again, a sequence is a group of numbers, an arranged group of numbers. So we have the numbers 3, 7, 15, 31, 63. It looks like it's random numbers. It is a sequence because they are in a specific order. The pattern or the rule here is that you multiply each number by 2 and then add 1. So let's see how they form that sequence. So we start with the number 3. So we see here 3, and again the first part is to multiply by 2 and then add 1. So we multiply by 2 and we get 6, and we add 1 and we get 7. So that's the second part. So then now we have 7, and then the next part is to multiply by 2 and then add 1. So we multiply by 2 and get 14, add 1, and we get 15, which is the next part of our sequence. So the pattern or the rule is what is making the sequence order, but a sequence by itself, you might not know the order. You might have to figure out why the pattern is what it is. So as you can see here, when we multiply 15 by 2, we get 30, and we get 31 when we add the 1. Then we multiply by 2 again, and we get 62, and then we add 1, and we get 63. If we had to figure out what the next number in the sequence was, we could figure it out because we have the rule. So we know that we have 63, and then we multiply it by 2, which that would end up getting 126. Again, 60 times 2 is 120, and 3 times 2 is 6. So 126, and then we add 1, and we get 127. So the next number on the sequence would be 127, and it could keep going. So again, in order to find the next number in the sequence, we just use the pattern or the rule that we're given. So our next 2 vocab words are descending and ascending. If you heard of these before, that's great. So descending just means decreasing order. So if you have a sequence that says 10, 9, 8, just like we have here, and even if you have letters, let's say it was Z, Y, X, if it's going backwards or going down, it's descending. So when I was your age, I would remember descending as it started with a D, so that meant it was going down or it was decreasing. So it was decreasing. So ascending is the opposite, so it's increasing order. So this is most patterns we see where we have like 1, 2, 3. The pattern we just saw in the previous slide where it had 3 and then 7 and then 15. This is ascending. The numbers are increasing every time. So that's descending and ascending. The last vocab word is corresponding. So corresponding just means the same position in a sequence. So this is sequence 1. And this is sequence 2. Same position just means that the first number in each of the sequences are corresponding terms. The fourth number in the sequence are corresponding terms. So you can see here that I color coordinated it, but the second number in each of the sequences are corresponding. The third number, they're corresponding. If you can tell here, sequence 2 is actually double sequence 1. So that's one noticing. It's sequence 2 is double sequence 1. Or you could say sequence 2 is sequence 1 times 2. You could also say it as sequence 1 is increasing by 2. So we have 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 2 is 5, 5 plus 2 is 7. The rule for sequence 2 is actually adding 4. So you can see here, adding 4 to 2, you get 6. 6 plus 4 is 10. 10 plus 4 is 14. So those are two rules, but you can notice also that there's patterns in between the two sequences. Again, we can say that it's a double or it's multiplied by 2. We could also say that sequence 1 is half of sequence 2. So we could say that sequence 1 is half, or that could be like saying divided by 2 is half of sequence 2. So we see here, this is an example from IXL XPM, which is one of these skills assigned for this week. So we see it says compare pattern A to pattern B. Pattern A says to add 5 every time. Pattern B says to subtract 5 every time. So now we're going to compare how they relate to each other. So we're going to read both statements and say whether it's true or false for every corresponding term. So it says each term in pattern B can be found by subtracting the corresponding term in pattern A from 35. So this is like saying if we had 35 minus 5, then we had 35 minus 10, then we had 35 minus 15, and the last one, 35 minus 20. So again, we're subtracting the corresponding term in pattern A from 35 to see if we get pattern B. So 35 minus 5 is 30, 35 minus 10 is 25, 35 minus 15 is 20, 35 minus 20 is 15. And we can see here 30, 25, 20, 15, 30, 25, 20, 15, it checks out. It matches for all of the corresponding terms. So this one is correct. But let's check the next one just to see why it's incorrect. So it says each term in pattern B is 6 times the corresponding term in pattern A. So if we see here, if we multiply 5 by 6, we do get 30. Okay? But let's see the next one. If we do 10 times 6, we get 60, which is not the 25 here. If we had 15 times 6, this would end up being 10 times 6 is 60, 5 times 6 is 30. So this is 90, which is not 20. So this rule does not apply other than in the first term. But we're looking for a rule that applies for every corresponding term. So for the assignments for this week, please make sure to watch my other 2 videos. One is on the 5.8 milestone related to last week's unit conversion. And then the second video is related to these IXL skills, which I'll go over 2 examples of each skill. Thank you.